former United States Senator, former Vice President of the United States. He's a champion of raising the living standards of middle-class Americans, reducing gun violence, addressing violence against women, and ending cancer as we know it. Please welcome back to the Urban League, candidate for President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Your love lifted me higher than I've ever been lifted before.
Hello, everybody. How are you? It's good to see you all. I'm glad anybody's still left. I think your physical constitution outruns your judgment here, but thank you very much for allowing me to come back. Mark, it's great to be with you again. He's still my mayor, but you know, he's the head here. I get it. Mark, you know how deeply involved I've been in my career, like many others, with the Urban League. I've been an Urban Leaguer for a long time, and that's why I was honored to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award last time this organization asked me to come and speak. So it's good to be back. I'm going to continue to work like the devil to earn it. One of the most respected men in my community when I came back from law school and became a public defender, and because our city was occupied by the National Guard. Wilmington was the only city in the United States of America occupied by the National Guard, the military, for 10 months with drawn bayonets after Dr. King was killed since the Civil War. And a man who I respected a great deal, who was a great civil rights leader in my community, a guy named Jim Gilliam. And I worked closely with, it was really a truly fine man. And I worked closely with Jim for 30 years and taking on the housing crisis, working to fix our schools. We're working to just overall injustice that exists in the community. And that was the reason I came back to Wilmington after law school, to fight the injustice that was particularly occurring in my state. Most of you don't know, my state is the 8th highest black population in America, almost 20%, 19.8% of my state. And that's why I left a good job that I had with a firm representing corporate interest, decent, honorable men, but I became a public defender. And that's why I ran for office in the first place, is to get engaged in the community efforts that I had, as a kid, worked on the East Side doing. And starting with the county council and the Senate, the lessons I learned from Jim and from Reverend Herring and a number of the black church leaders in my community was that I've spent my time with them as a young man, and it was the thing that I had to do to get engaged. And that's how you deliver change, and you all know it because you've done it, each one of you. And we desperately need people engaged. So when Jim, when it was time, Jim decided he wanted to start an Urban League chapter in Delaware, in Wilmington. Immediately sent over a guy who is with me today, who was the former president, but my staffer. He was a staffer then. It made me feel very badly today. When we talked, he said his son is 26 years old and just graduated from Syracuse. I said, oh, God, they can't be that old. Can't be the case. But anyway, Dr. Tony Allen. And together in '99, Tony and Jim founded the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, with Tony serving as founding president. Now, Tony's here with me today as well, and my daughter Ashley, who ran the largest criminal justice organization in Delaware, she also served. She has her master's in social work. She served on the board of trustees for the Wilmington chapter, and my dear friend and now Congresswoman herself, Lisa Blunt Rochester, I'm really close with her family all these times, she served after that. The point is, Congressman Rochester was the first African-American, the first woman ever elected to Congress in the state, as well as the first African-American. And, I'm one of her biggest fans. Her dad and I go back a long way. So, this is all familiar commitment to me, but it's real. The Urban League is one of the most vital, and I'm not being solicitous, vital organizations we have. You're moving the needle. You're moving the needle on systematic racism and discrimination, and still, that still is much of the contour of the world we live in today. And every time you publish a State of Black America report, you force us to contend with the entrenched inequalities that still exist in our society. And you're touching lives. You're changing them. More than 20,000 people are able to purchase a new home. More than 245,000 people are placed in jobs because of you. 3 million people have benefited from education, your educational services. And more than 8 million have benefited from health care services. So I want to start today by saying thank you. We owe you. We owe you. We owe you big as a country. And I mean that sincerely. Your unwavering dedication to advancing equality and opportunity for communities of color is incredibly consequential. Starting all the way back from 1910, you've been working on it. And so, look, I know you've changed a lot. A lot has moved since we spoke, and since I spoke here not here, but to you in 2016. But today, I believe we're in a battle for the soul of America. That's what's changed. You know, we have a president of the United States who has deliberately be nice, Joe. Be nice, Joe. Mom, I'm going to be okay, Mom. But you know, I have a friend from Scranton who, bright guy, passed away not long ago. He used to say when something was really unusual, he said, "Who would have thunk it?" But seriously, this is direct appeal to racism that he's engaged in. When you saw those people, did any of you ever think, I mean this is sincerely, did you ever think, those of us involved, and most of you have been, all of you have been, in civil rights issues for a long time, did you ever think you'd see, in 2017, people coming out of a field carrying torches, veins bulging, spewing anti-Semitic hate, accompanied by white supremacists as well as the Ku Klux Klan, and have a president, when a young woman gets killed in that city, saying, "We don't want hate in this city"? And the president's asked about it, and he said, "There's some very fine people in both sides." I, honest to God, never thought I would see that again. And you know, as your great president, Whitney Young, who I got to meet a long time ago, once said, there's an unhealthy gap between what we preach in America and what we often practice. And it creates a moral dry rot that eats away at the very foundation of our democratic ideals and values. Well, that rot is really eating at us now in a big, big way. And there's an unhealthy gap that's haunted this nation for a long time. But today we have a president who embraces these supremacists. And last week he launched a vile racist attack against a sitting member of Congress, and actually 4 of them. You know, he rips at families. He rips them apart at our borders. He puts children in cages. He's actively working to undo every bit of the progress President Obama and I and our administration did. And we have to defeat Donald Trump this time out. We have to. There's no other alternative, you know. And then we have to work twice as hard to rip out the inequities that still exist for people of color, black people in this country, in housing, in health care, in criminal justice system, and so many other areas you're working so hard on. I've been in this fight for a long, long time, and as president, my North Star, and I mean this sincerely, I'm always referred to as middle-class Joe. That's not meant as a compliment in Washington. It means I'm not sophisticated. But I know who in the hell built this country. Wall Street did not build this country. Middle-class people and access to the middle class build it. And this time when we rebuild it, what you're doing, we have to bring everybody along, no matter their race, their gender, their zip code. In education, we're going to triple the funding for Title I schools from $15 to $45 billion in order to eliminate the funding disparities between majority black and minority white, rich and poor schools. You know, schools serving low-income communities need to be able to give their students an equal start in life. And that means early education, 3, 4, and 5 years old. A lot of you are professors. You know the deal. We know the numbers. There's no debate anymore. If a child from poverty is exposed in 3, 4, and 5 years to real education, they have better than a 50% chance of making it through high school and going beyond high school. What are we doing? What in the hell are we doing with all these gigantic tax cuts, and we're not willing to do that? And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make universal pre-K in every single person, in every single one of these schools. We're going to make sure that every student has an economic opportunity to graduate from high school, an equal opportunity to graduate from high school, and either go to have some college credits when they graduate in their pocket, or industrial credits and skills so when they leave with a good paying job. And what bothers me the most and I always got criticized this at home. I refuse to acknowledge that a child from poverty, from a single mom who can't read or didn't have an education, cannot learn as much as any child in America. If you give them a chance, I really mean it, and cannot go on. Cannot go on. The racial disparities are so pervasive in our society, they're part of our environment, literally. Poor communities, communities of color, tribal lands, they're the hardest hit by pollution. And I was talking with Tony Allen David when he worked with me back when I was a United States Senator when he got out of school. We were working on getting lead paint out of the community. And everybody said, what the hell are you doing? Lead paint, what's the big deal? Well, guess what? Look at all the communities where everything is, where there are wooden water pipes and spewing grit and dirt in the shadow of smokestacks. And anyway, it just goes on. That's why, for my climate change, it includes a comprehensive approach to environmental justice to ensure that our communities that can breathe clean air and drink clean water, from Flint, Michigan to Brady, Texas. But we're not doing it. My health care plan will get us to 97% coverage immediately, protecting and building on the Affordable Care Act, what I like to call the Obamacare. Not starting over with something new. Look, we'll include Medicare-like public option for anyone, in fact, who wants to buy in. And anyone who is on Medicaid, eligible for Medicaid, will automatically be enrolled in the public option, premium-free, so that we otherwise, if they qualify for Medicare, including so many black and brown families in states where Republican governors have refused Medicaid expansion. And we also need to build a more inclusive economy from top to bottom, and with better access to capital and black-owned small businesses, and focus on reducing black unemployment. Folks, nearly 7% of unemployment, shouldn't be cheered. 7% unemployment of African Americans. Well, God, eliminating the wage gap at 16.8% penalty for working blacks. It still exists. That's the difference. We need to take on, and we can't just talk about decline in black home ownership. We have to do something about it. We have to make it that black neighborhoods are worth living in. You know how it works. When I first got involved as a senator, I was the first bill I introduced was redlining. Banks have to represent and lend to the communities they are in. That's what they have to do. Black home ownership and the fact that black neighborhoods are worth, the same house is worth half the value, same exact house, if it's in a white neighborhood, and predominantly white neighborhood. So there's an incredibly long list of policies I could go through, but my time is short. The last point I really want to make is about perhaps the most insidious threat to progress I think we still face, and that's voter suppression, and it's going on in America. Last year, 24 states introduced at least 70 bills to curtail the right to vote for people of color. Folks, I got involved in politics. I ran for the United States Senate to extend the Voting Rights Act. As chairman of the committee, I was the only one to get it extended 25 years. By the time I left, Teddy and I got it extended for 25 years, and we got a vote of 98-0. 98-0 to support it. And then along came the change in the pre-clearance law. The Supreme Court ruled. It's just, look, 35 states now are scheduled to enforce voter ID laws. Nothing less than a methodological attempt to, deny people an assault on our democracy. And I can promise you, in this Biden administration, the Department of Justice will once again protect fundamental rights to vote, and I'll lead the fight to reaffirm the connections of the Voting Rights Act, to make sure it's easier for people to exercise their right to vote. And look, I've been making this argument for a long time. Voter registration should be automatic upon turning 18. And we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we have to keep pushing forward to close the gap between our values and our practice in this country. The size of the gap is gigantic, and we have to understand that the future rests in the American creed, the future where all men and women are created equal, but not only that, we say that in our Constitution, but treated equally. And I know we can do it. And I know we can do it because of all the challenges this country is capable of. We've never failed when we've decided to be together. And I want to tell you, Mark, this president has done for this generation what the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement did for my generation, the assassination of King and Kennedy. The fact of the matter is, he has, the one thing I have to thank the president for, he's energized people to understand what we have to do, especially young people. And folks, I know my time is up, so I got to get out of here, but look, the bottom line here is that, you know, we have to be in a position. We have to be in a position to believe that we can do something that we wouldn't have been able to do just 4 or 8 years ago. Because people now understand the paucity of everything this administration has done. They get it. They understand. They didn't even know what Obamacare was before. Now they know, and they insist they keep it. They didn't understand exactly what was going on until this guy went to such an extreme. So folks, don't give up. There's an Irish poet who once wrote, history teaches us not to hope on this side of the grave, but then once in a lifetime, that long-for tidal wave of justice rises up, and hope and history rhyme. We can make it rhyme if we're determined. Thank you.